Okay, so let's take a look at the papers that I've actually got on trial. I would like to have done a few more as well, but I've had to buy all these myself in packs usually, so you know, it's about £100–120 worth that I've paid out just to get a variety of these. Some of them it's difficult to get all of in single sheets, and it's just not, perhaps you mail order, you've got to buy 5 or 6 of them. So this is what I've got, but the good thing is that it's a range of actual surface texture differences. Now by that I mean, if I go through them, I've got the Hahnemuller Vella paper, which is quite popular, and now that the Vella means that it's got that silkiness to it, a silky feel. Now if you go one way it's quite rough, and another way is perfectly smooth, so I don't know how that's going to affect it when I actually put pastel strokes on there. So that's a velvety feel. That's 260 grams per square meter, £120, so it's really flimsy, and I was surprised how flimsy it is compared to what I'm used to. White on the back side. Okay, now this one is just one that I put in there to show you the difference between pretty much normal papers and pastel specific papers. So this one is just called Paint On by Clairefontaine, and it's what they call a multi-technique paper, so you can apparently do acrylics and watercolors and graphite and pastel on there. 250 grams, so around about the same as a Vella. It's a cheap paper, it's a general purpose one, so I'm not expecting great things from it, but I wanted to put it in so you can see how pastel papers compare. Now, my current favourite, anybody who's following me on my Facebook and those type of channels will see I use Pastel Mat a lot. It was recommended to me and I've loved it straight away, but I don't know how it compares with the others. Are the others even better? So Pastel Mat is again from Clairefontaine. Now this is a real heavyweight paper, and it's pretty much the heaviest of all of them I'm testing. So it's 360 grams, £170. The back side is white, and it's got a, well, at first I thought it was a rough texture, but now I've bought some of the others, I know it's really not that textured at all. So I'm wondering if the others will take even more layers. But it's got a slight, very slight texture, almost like the softest or the finest sandpaper you could ever touch. Comes in all different colours, as most of these do. Canson Métiers Touch Paper. Now this one is specific for pastel. It's much rougher. It's still not massively rough, but it does have a rough surface when you go across it. Should hold many layers, it's quite popular. It's thick again, 350 grams, so the tiny amount thinner than the Pastel Mat, but you'd hardly tell. But on the back side it's a textured paper. So that's that. Now another one, Pastel Card. I've got a really talented friend that I have on Facebook that does some fabulous work on pastel card, and she suggested that I use this and give it a go, by Senelia. 360 grams per square meter, but it feels the thickest of all of them, and the texture is definitely the roughest. Now when you go across the surface though, you can actually brush some of that texture off. So I can feel on there now it's quite a little bit gritty. So that should hold more layers. So that's Pastel Card, 360 grams per square meter. And the last one then is Daler-Rowney Pastel. Now I put this one in as well. I've already done a test on this in the past and I don't like it, but it's very specific. And it's very much like what you would normally get as your standard pastel paper. So it's got a texture on the front of it, a uniform texture, and then on the back it's very, very smooth. Okay, it's almost like a you know, a paper that I would give to a child, like a test out paper. It's 160 grams per square meter, so it's pretty thin. And that's just in there because if you go to the art supply shop and you want to try out a pastel paper, you'll know that virtually all the manufacturers do a paper just like this. A thin, cheap paper that they say is for pastel, and they say it's for pastel just because it's got a slightly ridged surface on there. And you will know how this is going to affect you. So although this is Daler-Rowney, I know lots of other makes make a paper almost identical to this, so that's why it's in there. So we've got the standard paper, we've got the three almost like sanded paper, so that textured paper, that's those three. Then I've got the vella, or velour I think they say in America, so that's a very, very different surface. And then we've got a smooth paper, so that's the papers we've got to test. Okay, so it's not going to be easy to do kind of a scientific type of test with these, because when you're applying pastel you can use different pressures. You can use, if I'm blending, I can accidentally use different pressure on my finger. If I'm using a pencil, I could be pushing a little bit harder and not even know I'm doing it. So it's never going to be fully scientific. And you know, I'm not that experienced with pastel and papers anyway. I'm looking at these completely unbiased. Some could be better than what I'm used to, and some could be not as good. But if you're using different techniques, perhaps you want a very soft appearance. Perhaps you like the ridges in these papers. Perhaps you want a rougher surface or a smoother surface. So just take what I'm doing with a pinch of salt, and hopefully it'll help to guide you into you know, a better paper to try. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I think I'll put I think I'll take a pencil. So see what I've got here. Carbothello pencil, okay? And what I think I'll do a couple of lines down each. Push them fairly firm. Okay, so 3 down there. Okay, you can see a massive difference there straight away, probably. Onto the pastel card. Obviously colours are going to make a difference to the paper as well, but we're going to have to kind of discount that, because lots of these come in lots and lots of different colours and I couldn't match them all up. And I think what I'll do, actually, I'll go across as well. And you'll see why. Okay. Wow, that's a big difference. Okay, so we've got a big difference there. The pastel matte, that's giving me a nice vibrant line, and you can see that this Canson Tiens, the touch paper, Canson Touch, that's easier to say, it's rough, and it gives me a rough appearance too. You can really see that there. You can see that texture showing through. The pastel card, not so much. It does look a bit dimmer, but that's just because it's going on green. So what I'm going to do is move these two, because pastel matte and pastel card at the moment look quite similar. So we can get more of a direct comparison there. The Daler-Rowney, you can see those ridges showing through on the pencil. Different when you go horizontally compared to vertically. The vella, well, that vibrant colour just seemed to sink into it. I was really surprised at that. So this is the smooth multi-purpose paper. Looks very similar to these pastel mattes. Okay, now I'm going to use a cotton bud just so that I can blend with these to see how much it spreads. So I'm going to try to keep the pressure the same. I'm going to work it around just to see what happens. I'll use the clean side. So it does blend. Flip it over. Let's try the pastel card because it's rougher. And I'm surprised, but that seems to blend out pretty much as well as the pastel matte. Get a clean bud. What about this? Will this hold it so much now that I can't blend? Now that really surprises me. I figured that because it's so rough I wouldn't be able to blend it. Looks like it goes the same both ways, and actually seems to blend just as much, if not more, than the pastel matte. Okay, what about this Daler-Rowney? Yep, I'd expect that to blend quite a lot. A lot of it's coming up onto the cotton bud though. Vella, This will be interesting. Well, I can't say it really blended, but it's come off, and considering I've used a purple pencil, why is that full of yellow? So clean end, and the blending seems to remove it. That's strange. Let's put another mark down just in case there was some form of, really push it in this time, contamination on the, what a strange paper to work on. Very, very different. Okay, so that's clean. Blend. Okay, that's better. I don't know where that yellow came from. Try the other side, but this time I'm going to keep going. Try and damage the paper. See if that yellow is underneath. Nope. Okay, so it doesn't really blend that much, I must admit. Where these kind of blend out. Let's have another go. The Vela seems to lift off and go dirty looking. Okay, fair enough, it is what it is. I've seen some great work on Vela, mind, I must admit. Lots of people like it for wildlife art. It's paper, smooth paper, that's what I'd expect it to do. Okay. So what I think I'll do now, I'll take a soft pastel, and I've got a schminky brown, and I'm going to make some marks lightly, really lightly on there. I'll do that on all of them. You can hear how that's a lot rougher. Canson really shows that texture up. You can see that uniform texture. Let's listen to this one. And look how soft that Vela's come out. Super soft. What if I go the other way? Yeah, pretty much the same. Let's do these the same too. And the smooth paper. Okay, Vela is massively different than anything else. And you can see with the Daler-Rowney how the different direction that you actually put it on makes a massive difference to the mark, because you've got that man-made pattern in there. Okay, best way probably to push it in is going to be using my finger, because with a finger it's not taking it off as much as pushing it in to the texture of the paper there. That's nice and smooth, the pastel card as well. You wouldn't want to be using your finger much on the pastel card blending all the time, because it's going to take your fingerprints off. Could be okay if you want to be a bank robber, I suppose. Okay, the Canson, not as harsh as Senelia. It's blending. Not as nice as the, in my opinion, as the pastel mat, really. But it's blending out. But you can see, because it's rougher, I can still see that texture through it. So I would have to then, you know, put a second layer on to fill that up. Okay, and see, you can, it looks very similar then, those three rougher papers. Could be a problem for backgrounds perhaps. Not sure. Pastel mat's the softest or the finest of those. Okay, I can blend these in. Now if I go up and down as well, I'm filling in that weave across there. Wonder what'll happen with the Vela now. Okay, so that blends in better now rather than lifting out. Yeah, just blending down into it. And I'd expect this one to blend quite well, because there's no tooth to the paper, so to speak. Okay, I don't normally blow my pastels, but for this instance I'm just going to blow that bit of dust off. Okay, so the reason I put that on mainly is because with wildlife, very often you want to lay a light colour over a dark. So that's given me a pretty much uniform dark. Let's put a little bit more on that vela, just on that one side. The reason being it doesn't look as saturated as these other ones. Putting that in, blow off the surface. Okay, so I've got Pastel pencil, a light coloured one, and I just grab a bit of tissue to wipe my finger off a little bit on the pencil. Okay, so what I wanted to see was laying a colour on top, so hopefully you can all see it. So I've got a nice clean pencil lead or end, and I'll just turn the pencil around a bit as I'm moving through. So basically I can lay a light colour on top of a dark colour on pastel mat quite easily. I'll clean the end of that pencil off so it is fair for all of them. So pastel card, how will that compare with that pastel mat? Now all the drawings I've done so far has been on pastel mat, so that's quite smooth, but it has got a texture, and this is really textured. It's going to weigh the pencil down quicker, but it really does stand out on there as well. But notice you're seeing that texture come through of the actual card itself, you know, that grittiness to it. So that's actually coming through much more than on the pastel mat. Clean the end of the pencil again. Let's try it on this. So this is a Canson touch. Okay, I think you'll agree, even though this is a cream paper, I put plenty of brown on there to give the same type of effect, and it's kind of like it's filled up the tooth of the paper already. It's not grabbing anymore. You know what, I can push really hard or soft and it's still nowhere near as vibrant as these other two. So that's quite interesting. So generally having a rough feel doesn't necessarily mean it's going to grab the pencil or going to allow more layers, so to speak. Okay, Daler-Rowney, what have we got here? Now this is what I found in other tests. You can pretty much not layer a pencil over a softer underground. Not showing through at all. Now vela, in fact I'm going to save the vela till last, keep it as a surprise because I've never touched it or used it before. This one I have. So this standard paper, you're going to get nothing out of that as far as layering. What a massive difference. So if this is your first, imagine this was your first time with pastels and you pick up this paper. So you've got brilliant pencils, you've got brilliant pastel sticks, and you try this out and you think, like I did years ago with these papers, okay, I'm obviously rubbish at this. That's not for me. I can't get it to work, and you're frustrated and you get rid of it. So let's try the vela. And does direction of the marks make any difference? Let's see. Okay, so it actually does. You can see it. What if I go this other way? What if I come this way? Okay, so even though it feels different, whatever way you do it. Okay. This is interesting. If you go this way, it's rough. If you go that way, it's smoother. Down and up. So, you know what? That's going to make, it's really pushing into it and like cutting, making a ridge in there. And the other way is sitting on the surface. So if you're left-handed and you're going that way, it's going to be different if you're right-handed or going that way. You can really only make marks going the one way, otherwise you're pushing into it and actually digging down deep in there. You can see that's damaging the surface, and that's not interesting. With these, makes no difference which way you actually go on it. makes no difference at all, but it does with vella. Something to keep in mind for sure. I think I'll pick up a couple of new pencils, different colours, and just continue to add some layers. So we've got a red, and I'm still layering, and it's still showing. Because doing these type of methods, you can you know, build layers into your artwork, especially for fur and feathers. They work in very similar. But look how that's really muted. Look at the difference of colours between papers. And what's happening with this brownie paper? It's just turned into a mess basically. That's one I would never ever use again. And what's happening with this? Everything is smudging together a bit on the vella. So its darks are showing up, but the vibrant whites have gone completely gone. Where I like, if I want nice separated colours, that's what I'm getting there. Okay, just your standard bottom of the range paper. Well, bottom of the range, mid-range type of general purpose paper. Interesting. Let's pick a light one again. So this is still accepting layers, but what happens a lot is it's coming back off on the pencil tip rather than sitting down. What happens here? So yeah, little bits on the pencil tip, but still accepting more layers. Okay. Whereas you can still keep going on that, but you see how it's all starting to blend together now and smudge together. Now can I get, these are similar colours, similar tones, especially this one's a little bit darker but very similar. So can I get the white to show again? Oh. Well, you know, if I want to make a real white on there now, you'd swear it's kind of like sinking into the paper and just blending everything together. Whereas here I can still layer, and that's gone really muddy. So I'd be struggling with that. The Daler, you see, rather than sitting on in layer format, you can really see a difference there now. Let me zoom in a little bit, especially on these. Okay, so I think now if I'm looking at them, make sure you can see it on camera. So look how these are layering and the colours are staying separate when you compare it to this vella or velo, which has gone mucky looking. I could understand this could look quite nice and soft. Say for instance you're doing a German Shepherd dog and it's predominantly brown, or a bear for instance, and all you're using is black, a darker brown and a light brown. It would look nice and soft, the fur could look nice and soft on there. With this you've got to be a little bit more, you know, work it a little bit more by blending with your fingers. But so that would stay soft. But what if you want, you know, real sharp edged different colours on there? You know, you've got to really start to reserve areas then, in my opinion, so that you're not contaminating with the other papers. You know, you see the difference in sharpness and softness. You could probably use it to your advantage in soft subjects, rabbits, fluffy animals perhaps. but there's a massive difference. Now with this, obviously, if I want to make that soft, I got the option just to blend it. If I want to make it sharp, I just leave it as it is. With this, if I want to make it soft, it happens naturally. If I want to make it sharp, I'm stuffed. Pastel mat and the pastel card, very similar. I could use both of those with similar techniques. I'm wondering though, if this pastel card, because it's a bit rougher, could I just keep going? Because this one, Cancer now, is starting to give up the ghost. This one's getting mucky and muddy. That's had it. I don't like that at all anyway. But these two here, which I figured would probably be the best for my technique, just for the techniques I'm using, are still going. Still going. So let's try, so we can see how many layers can be put on there. And it's really, they're starting to fill up now, but that's a lot of layers, a lot of layers. So, you know, I could blend those then, but the layers like that, being able to do that is great, because it means you can put a pencil on its side and lightly, you know, blend and add a bit of colour on top with both of these. You can lightly change them slightly like that, and it'll obviously blend all together. It's going to make a mucky mess because of all the colours, but you can see it will blend nicely if you wanted to blend it. The Vella has got that softness. When you try to use a blender like that, rather than blend it in, it seems to lift it all off. It's obviously something, you know, it's an effect of the paper. So ones I would never ever use for pastel are the paint on, because it's general purpose. You know, if you want to do big expressive works, you know, using large sticks, and it's perhaps you're trying out, you know, perhaps a composition, it's okay because it's cheap, but don't expect to do, you know, real detailed wildlife work on that. The Dahlia at the back is classed as, let's get a little bit tidier, classed as a pastel paper. And again, you know, if you're doing large expressive works, obviously I got that other paper underneath, you know, you can get some nice effects on there. But to me it's like a cartridge paper, it's like a child's paper. You could do layering if you're using these soft pastels, but look how they just seem to all merge together and get muddy. More comes off on the pastel than stays on the paper. There, you can see it a bit better there. Yeah, and then I could put that on top. You see how it just merges together. So the ones I'm most interested in, if I zoom back out, are Clairefontaine, the pastel mat. That's what I've been using, so I know it works for my techniques. The pastel card seems very similar, but it's rougher, feels more substantial, although the pastel mat is as well, but I think it's expensive too. Now the Canson, I think I could create a piece of art on there that would be, you know, okay, but I don't see why I would buy this in place of the pastel mat. They both feel very similar. This is rougher, and you've got that, you know, roughness that's going to show through, whereas on the pastel mat it's less so. So I've got that paper, you know, I spent about probably £20 on the pack of it. It's got some nice colours in there, so I don't think it's going to be wasted. I think I'll probably use it. These two I'm definitely going to use in the future. velour. I don't know what to make of it, to be honest. I'm gonna try to create something with it. I'm not gonna just dismiss it because so many people really like it, and look how soft I can make that. Whereas on here, obviously I'm gonna have more of the texture, and Pastel Matte is more of a middle of the road in between. But Vela or Velour is much different than the others. Much different. Yep, they can all blend to their own extent, but this is going to be soft, very soft to use. So let's say for instance, then I'm doing, you know, soft fur marks. The colour is going to really influence it as well, so I can blend out, and I can use a Rembrandt on top. As you can see, you know, I can see how you could create fur fairly easily with that. And soft fur, it's going to be soft. Just a touch on top, it's going to make it even softer. And if I've got a sharp pencil, it's a white, which I wouldn't normally be doing with fur. I hope you can see that now. That's the issue I've got with Velour. This Hahnemuller paper, I can't get my layer to go on top easily. So you can't go put in a real dark on there, blend it in, then say for instance I could go lighter, okay, blend that in slightly, and then perhaps I want a real vibrant highlight between the end of the pencil, and I can't do it. So what I think I'd need then probably is something very, very, very soft, like the Schmincke soft pastel, and that's then going to sit on top. So a real softness. It's really grabbing that pastel then. So that's how you'd use the Velour or Vela. It's not really the same way. If I do something similar now on this pastel card, okay, blend that in, just roughly for now, and then I can create a few textures, blend them down a bit, and then clean the pencil. But with the pencil I can actually get highlights in there on top, and if I wanted to I could come with this very, very soft pastel and I could do that too. But with a velour paper you get the softness automatically. With this you need to, you know, kind of work it in to get your softness, or use a stump, perhaps a soft stump like you see me use on other videos I suppose the Derwent. You see, so you can get it as soft as you want, and you can even make it blend away to disappear. You've got the option to come back in with the pencil. So if I look at Pastel Matte, create that darkish area underneath, blend it, pushing it into the tooth of the paper. So I'm sticking with the Rembrandt, yep, so I can create a few textures like that. I can blend slightly with my finger. My fingers are really dirty now, as you'll imagine, so I wouldn't be doing that, you know, really on a proper drawing. And then I can come in with a pencil. If I wanted to I could get highlights in it as well, or I could come back with some real fine work on the pastels. So that's the papers for you. It's just a quick review. Zoom back out a bit now. As I said at the beginning, this was going to be a case of the choices totally up to you. If you're after the kind of techniques I do myself, so I've got lots of detail in there, and I like lots of layers, and I like to be able to use the pencils because they give me that advantage of being able to do fine marks. Yeah, so if I get a darker pencil, I can do those very fine lines on there. Then I like these kind of sanded papers. Now there's lots of other makes out there as well. So you've got the Sennelier pastel card on top, so that's the rougher version. Yeah, but you can still do those fine lines. You've got the pastel mat, so that's a finer version of it. I found the Canson Touch, although it felt like it was going to hold loads of layers, didn't seem to actually happen. And then if you want something that's really super soft, but what a fragile paper it really does seem to be, then the Vella, you know, is probably a paper of choice. But it is fragile. You've got to be careful with your pencil marks. You can do fine lines, but I've got to be really gentle, because when you push in, you're actually pushing in. You can feel ridges in there, so it's not grabbing into it. It's, you know, and if you go a wrong direction, or you're pushing rather than pulling, it'll give you a different feel to it as well. Very different paper, but I've seen some lovely work on it. I don't know if it suits me. It's so fragile. I'll have to try it. Usually in wildlife paintings, what you like to do is have a lot of softness on the fur, and then things like eyes, you'd have a lot of hard marks on there. So you'd need, you know, real darks then to create your hard marks. And it's easy to do on these papers, but it just doesn't behave the same on there. So you don't want to be using that kind of technique. On Vella, you really want to be gently smoothing. It's a soft surface. You want to be laying colours on and going lighter and lighter, and keeping these soft ones, the softest ones, down for your highlights, which works quite well like that. But it is fragile, and if I flick the back of the paper, yeah, it's a bit extreme, but it pretty much comes up and it blows off. Now with a pastel mat, it's in there. With, let's get some on there. Right, I'm not even going to push it in. It stays there. So that's why they say with these papers, these sandy type, just checking this in the view, papers, they don't need fixing at the end of it. It actually stays in. And with the velour, I don't know if they recommend fixing with that either, but it's fragile. You've got to be real careful with that. If you drop it, I think you could ruin it. You could ruin your artwork. You know, the Canson, it holds on there as well, but I don't know why you would ever select that over the pastel mat and the pastel card. The Dahlia, good as a cheap rough paper, and that would be about it. So I was just wondering, just before I wrap things up, if these could actually be erased without ruining the papers. So I've just got a standard eraser, and let's try this one first, the pastel mat. So I've got tons and tons of pastel actually on there, and you can do it a bit, but it's going to damage the surface eventually. Pastel card, this is that one that's much rougher. So it is erasing, and I've still got roughness under there, so I could continue again if I wanted to. So that's really a hard working paper. This Canson, yep, it erases. Never going to get back to the paper, but we know that. You know, and it's still rough, so the surface hasn't really come off. So that's hard wearing too. Velo. It does come off, but the surface, well, surface is still there actually. It's not too bad. It hasn't come off completely, but I could still work at it. So none of them really, you know, you'd use erasing as an absolute last resort. So hopefully it's helped in some way and it's not give you more problems to decide which paper you'd want yourself. I know the ones I'm going to be using in the future now, and that's going to be the pastel card and the pastel matte. I'd be interested to see with the pastel card I can keep layering and layering, and I wonder if that'll be suited more to larger works, and perhaps the pastel matte for the smaller ones, because I can get fine detail without the grit of the paper showing through as much. The Métiers touch I probably won't even bother with. The Vela, I'm going to try something small on that. Perhaps what I normally do is the eye of an animal and with some fur around it, just to see what will happen on a nice sandy coloured version of it, because I bought the pack. I might as well try it out just to see the difference between those pastel papers. So hope you've enjoyed that review, and next up I'm going to be doing soft pastels. So I'll be trying things out like the Schmincke and Unison and Rembrandt and seeing how they all compare with each other.